What's up, guys, and welcome back to Mncube Entertainment. So, back in 2015, there is a police officer by the name Sergeant Masondo, and he was investigating Mncube, who is currently before the Meyiwa trial right now. Sergeant Masondo was investigating Mncube over this firearm that he had found in his residence in that year in 2015. And this was exactly 1 year after the Meyiwa case had occurred.
The High Court in Pretoria heard that the gun found on accused number 3 in the Meyiwa trial was not linked to the murder of the slain Bafana captain. That's according to testimony by Police Sergeant Masondo, who arrested accused number 3, Mncube, 4 months after Meyiwa's killing. Masondo told the court at the time police were looking for Mncube in connection with a separate murder case that happened in Alexandra. ENCA reporter Moloko Moloto was in court and brings us the story.
Sergeant Masondo says police found a 9mm pistol with 15 rounds of ammunition loaded in the magazine, while another single round was in the pistol chamber when they arrested Mncube at his rented room in Malvern near Germiston in February 2015. Masondo says 12 other rounds of mixed ammunition were found in a small box. Following the evidence in chief, it was then time for Masondo to field questions from Mncube's lawyer, Charles Mnisi.
Did this firearm that was found in the possession of the accused person have anything to do with this First Laura's case?
You want him to answer that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
My lord, there's nothing depicted by the firearm that was recovered on this case. Should it have been, definitely I think I was going to deal with it at that time. Others.
What you saying? Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Masondo told the court Mncube had conceded the unlicensed gun and ammunition found at his room were his.
So this is Sergeant Masondo here, a police officer in the South Africa Police Service, testifying before the court that the firearm that he found with Mncube was not linked in any way to the Meyiwa case, and he found any link between that firearm and Mncube in the Meyiwa case, he definitely would have done something. So this is evidence being given before the court under oath. And what is also interesting here is that Sergeant Masondo was called to testify as a state witness. So he was actually called by Advocate Baloyi to testify before the court in this case. So Advocate Baloyi must have been surprised to hear Sergeant Masondo actually going in that direction to say that there was no link whatsoever. Because the thing that is happening is that 5 years later on, it is then Mangena who then linked that firearm to the Meyiwa case. But the first person who arrested Mncube, Sergeant Masondo, is actually testified and said, no, I did not find any link whatsoever. So Sergeant Masondo is very, very much convinced that if that firearm was actually used at the Khumalo house, he was going to be the first to know. So based off of Sergeant Masondo's answer, accused number 3 is innocent. Because obviously during the investigations in 2015, they took that firearm to the laboratory to see which crimes it was actually connected to, and it was actually linked to an Alexander case. So with this evidence from Masondo, Mncube is innocent. But the challenge with Sergeant Masondo's evidence is that he did not conduct any fingerprint tests on this firearm, and the biggest one of them all is that he did not conduct any ballistic tests on it. So it's actually a little bit sad that he didn't do that in 2015, because he did conducted ballistic tests on it, then this case could have been solved by now. So he didn't conduct these ballistic tests. So that's when Mangena then comes in 5 years later with his own ballistic tests that link him to Mncube. But we all know we don't want to rely on Mangena's evidence. We want evidence that is closely linked to 2015, not evidence that came 6 years later on. So this is water under the bridge now. Sergeant Masondo actually failed to conduct a fingerprint analysis, which is actually like limited the potential to directly connect this firearm to the crime scene early on when everything was still fresh. But this, what can be done now, because we now want a solution to this case. And because of that blunder that was made by Sergeant Masondo to conduct ballistic tests on the firearm, this is actually an advantage to the defense, because the defense now can challenge this evidence and say that Masondo's failure to conduct these necessary tests, it actually undermines the credibility of the evidence. So there is a lot of this uncertainty as to whether is this firearm the one that was actually found by Masondo in 2015, because there is this allegation that it might have been swapped by somebody else. So the issue of like further forensic examination or a re-examination of the firearm, it does not count here, because nobody really knows for certain that the firearm was actually swapped or not. And obviously Masondo here, he is a little bit at fault, because how can you as a police officer do such a poor job on investigation, because you should have done like standard procedures. But all he did was just to take that firearm from Mncube and just arrest this guy, then stored it away for all of these years without like doing a proper report for this firearm. Masondo, he has to be like really questioned and has to be like thoroughly examined to see if he is really fit in what he is doing in his job. So what can be done now? Let's look at what can be done, because Masondo made a blunder. Okay, it's fine. There's nothing we can do about all of his mistakes that he did. And as for Mangena's evidence in 2020, we cannot take that, because there is this 5-year gap in between. And Mncube's firearm was actually stored in an unsealed bag. What has to be done now is to verify the chain of custody to make sure that it was actually unaltered, this firearm, to make sure that the evidence is actually admissible in court. This is going to involve like tracking the movement and the handling of the evidence from the moment that it was collected from Mncube in 2015 all the way to where it was stored in Cleveland police station. So what can be traced is actually who collected this firearm, where they collected it, and also we have to see this evidence log where they put all the important information like time and location, etc. Who sealed the bag? Where was it stored? Who has access to where these firearms are stored? All of that is very important, and also to like track and analyze all of the CCTV footage that is contained at the Cleveland police station, to make sure that nobody went in there to tamper with the bag that contained this firearm. So that is the solution here. It is actually to trace the chain of custody to ensure that from Masondo to Mangena, there was no tampering whatsoever. So tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.